You've probably heard the saying, the end justifies the means. It's often linked to Niccolò Machiavelli, a guy who's been labelled as one of the history's most ruthless and morally questionable philosophers. In fact, in 1539, Reginald Pole even went as far as calling Machiavelli the enemy of the human race. Why? Well, Machiavelli told rulers to focus less on what's morally right and more on what works in practice. For him, gaining power sometimes meant doing whatever it took, even if that meant lying, scheming, or even using violence. However, beneath the harsh advice lies a disturbing truth about humanity. Machiavelli didn't hide the ugly side of the power, he put it out in the open. His ideas might sound pretty dark, but there's a kind of harsh wisdom in them. It's all about getting what you want, no matter the cost. So, what do you think? Does this kind of brutal approach make sense, or does it cross a line? Let's dive into that discussion in the comments. Now, Machiavelli was born on May 3rd, 1469, in Florence, Italy, at a time when the country was a mix of warring city-states, Florence, Venice, Milan, and foreign powers like France and Spain constantly vying for control. Italy wasn't the united country we know today, it was a patchwork of states at war with each other, making Machiavelli's take on power even more fitting. In Florence, violence was part of the political game. When the Medici family was kicked out in 1494, it led to a brief and unstable republican government. During this period, Machiavelli witnessed the intense rivalry between powerful families and the chaos fueled by mercenary armies, who could be hired and sold like commodities. Machiavelli's life was deeply influenced by the Italian Wars, a period when France and Spain battled for control of Italian territories. These wars brought destruction, economic ruin, and political chaos, shaping Machiavelli's views on power and leadership. In 1512, when the Medici family took back control of Florence, Machiavelli was accused of plotting against them. He was tortured and exiled as a result. This turbulent period, marked by political shifts, leadership changes, and the harsh realities of war, led Machiavelli to write his most famous works, The Prince and Discourses on Livy, around 1513. Interestingly, The Prince was initially written as a gift to Lorenzo de' Medici, hoping to win back favor with the powerful family after his political downfall. Though The Prince is often associated with ruthless pragmatism and political manipulation, it also tackles deeper themes like leadership, the role of fortune, adaptability, and human nature. Ideas Machiavelli believed every ruler must grasp. His main goal was to ensure the survival of the state through a power that overshadowed all rivals. Machiavelli's seemingly harsh approach to acquiring and holding power was rooted in his realistic view of human nature. Rather than through a moral lens, he saw people as inherently selfish, hypocritical, and driven by greed. As a result, he argued that those in power should set aside moral ideals and focus on strategies that serve their own self-interest. Machiavelli concluded that if human nature is as deceitful and self-serving as he believed, a ruler must always assume others are plotting against them. Trusting no one means you'll never be caught off guard. For Machiavelli, success depended on this pessimistic view of human nature. By expecting the worst from others, you protect yourself from betrayal and disappointment. In his eyes, power wasn't sustained by kindness or trust, but by understanding and manipulating the darker sides of human behavior. This leads us to one of Machiavelli's most famous ideas, whether it's better for a ruler to be loved or feared. While he admitted that ideally, a ruler should be both, Machiavelli argued that love and fear rarely go hand in hand. If a ruler must choose, he believed it was much safer to be feared than loved. For Machiavelli, love was fleeting and unreliable. People, he argued, would quickly turn on their ruler once their personal needs were no longer met. Love, in his view, is temporary and can vanish as easily as the winds of fortune change. Fear, however, is a far stronger and more enduring force. Once instilled, fear sticks with people, ensuring their loyalty even when times get tough. To keep control, Machiavelli believed a ruler must be prepared to use harsh punishments when necessary to protect the state's security. Machiavelli supported his argument with historical examples, and Cesare Borgia was one of his prime cases. Borgia, though ruthless, successfully unified and stabilized the Romagna region, using fear and respect. His brutal methods squashed rebellion and cemented his power. For Machiavelli, fear wasn't just a tool, it was a critical element for achieving long-term success and maintaining stability. One of Machiavelli's most important pieces of advice was to surround yourself with capable and loyal individuals. As he famously said, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. While virtuous individuals were rare, Machiavelli believed that finding and keeping them was crucial for the state's success. However, he also recognized that in certain situations, drastic actions were necessary. A ruler must ensure that any harm inflicted on potential enemies is so extreme that retaliation becomes impossible. Machiavelli's political philosophy was revolutionary because he separated politics from theology and government from religion. While he respected religion for the social stability it brought, he rejected the idea that religious morality should guide government decisions. This challenge to the traditional belief that rulers should follow moral or religious laws, especially those of Aquinas, made the prince incredibly controversial. For Machiavelli, the state itself was sacred, and a ruler's main responsibility was to protect it at all costs, even if that meant discarding conventional moral values. Machiavelli used the metaphor of a lion and a fox to offer rulers practical advice. He said, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. The fox represents intelligence, cunning, and adaptability, traits that help a leader spot hidden dangers and navigate the complex web of politics. To be like a fox means knowing when to use deception or manipulation to avoid traps, which are a common part of political life. On the other hand, the lion symbolizes power, strength, and the ability to assert dominance. A ruler must be like a lion when the situation calls for it, using force to command respect and instill fear in potential adversaries." Machiavelli believed that virtuous leaders, though noble, would struggle to succeed in the harsh realities of politics. He championed pragmatism and flexibility, arguing that rulers must be ready to set aside moral codes when necessary to keep power. Politics, in his view, is inherently messy, and a good person who sticks strictly to moral values would easily be overpowered by someone willing to do whatever it takes to seize control. While Machiavelli's ideas offer practical insights into human nature and political survival, they come with notable drawbacks. His focus on ruling through fear, manipulation, and brute force often overlooks the rights and well-being of individuals. The preservation of the state, in his view, often comes at the expense of the people within it. By rejecting morality in politics, Machiavelli sets a dangerous precedent where the ends justify the means, which can ultimately lead to chaos and instability. In summary, although Machiavelli's strategies might be effective in certain situations, his disregard for moral principles and human rights can result in a cold, ruthless form of governance. As Bruce Lee famously said, "Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own." This approach encourages us to adopt a balanced perspective, learning from Machiavelli's insights but balancing them with humanity and justice, ensuring that leadership is not only effective but also ethical.